right.
Okay, I may want to get my iPad out because I may have to take notes because number one tip from Dr. Bonson is watch out for prejudicial conjectures. So,
All right.
it's a joke.
All right, we're live, and this is Floyd FP with BroJoSavedByGrace, and I guess we're going to talk about worldviews, whether they're coherent or not. Let me mute the live feed here. All right, so yeah, this stems from a comment thread we had that Veckel originally posted. He posted like 2, I think, this morning, and you replied on 2 of them. And I guess the one you want to talk about first is the one where Veckel posted a little, whatever you call it, a picture. It says, "Atheists, the only people dedicated to fighting what they swear does not exist." And I replied, "We fight the people that swear that such beings exist." So we're not, we're not fighting the actual person that we don't think exists. We're criticizing the ideas people have that such beings do exist. And later you replied, okay, yeah, you replied, the mind of some humans, Floyd, can you explain to me how you have determined anything to be the case, such as there are other minds outside of your own? So basically you're bringing up the problem of solipsism, right?
Yeah. So basically I saw the post and I go, how are you, because often what I do notice is that the unbeliever will often speak outside of his own worldview and step into mine. And I just want to know, first question in the air, how you determine that there are any other minds outside of yourself.
Well, why can't other worldviews have a mind-independent reality to them? What's unique about your worldview? I assume you're a Christian, right?
Yeah, I'm a Bible believing Christian.
Yeah. Who says that that a particular Christian worldview owns the concept of a mind-independent reality?
Well, I'm not sure that I fully understand your question.
Well, you said I'm borrowing from your worldview, right?
Sure, but I would, yeah. Well, I really don't want to get sidetracked based off of that comment that I made. I really want to just specifically focus on how you determined that there are other minds outside your own, because that's what I commented. I go, I noticed that this happens now. Can you explain to me? Because I'm really curious, because I see this all the time in all these debates and discussions that I constantly have with atheists, agnostics, and different religious groups. And I go, how do they know any of this stuff? So could you explain to me how you know any of those things to be certain?
Well, I can answer based on my worldview, because that's what we're talking about here, right? We're comparing we're comparing my worldview to your worldview, right? Well, in my worldview, there happens to be a mind-independent reality where other minds exist. It's just part of my ontology. That's just simply the case.
So is it just something you just assume to be true? Because that's what that sounds like to me.
Well, it's a properly basic belief. It's a presupposition of my worldview. It's part of my worldview in which I reason from.
Now, when you say properly basic belief, now is this a belief that you just strongly hold to that there would be no evidence for?
Yeah, it's not something I can justify, because it's a pre-rational belief in which I reason from. So that's one of the beliefs in which
Sure. So
which makes up rationality.
sure. So we already hit the ground running with it, with your starting point, with the way you see the world and how you view the world. You don't even have a justification for that belief. So every other thing that comes from your worldview is bankrupt. You can't justify your starting point. There would be no means to justify any other point.
Well, okay, so you're claiming you can justify your presuppositions. Is that what you're saying?
No, I never said that. I'm just asking you because you said you had no justification for yours. So
Well,
if you can you explain to me if you have no justification for your starting point, how you could reason from how you could reason at all?
well, you're bringing up basically the Munchausen trilemma, that for any truth claim, you're going to be stuck with only three options. Either to justify that, you're going to have to argue in a circle, you're going to have an infinite regress, or you're going to have to rely on some axioms. And in this case, my properly basic beliefs, yeah, I'm just starting. I'm using them as a starting point, which would be an axiom.
To basically you're already off the ground. You're not even off the ground. You're still on the ground. You haven't even built up yet. So if you cannot,
well, that is the ground. That is the ground right there.
An unjustified.
That's where I start from.
So you're an unjustified, unprovable, an assumption that you have not proven. Is your start? Let me ask you.
How could you possibly start? How could you possibly justify your starting point? What would you possibly use to justify your starting point? What could you use? Something prior to it? You can't. There's nothing prior to your starting point, right? So what could you possibly use to justify your starting point?
Well, see, this is okay. So now this is another problem that I'm noticing. I'm asking you a question, and you're not really answering it. You're reflecting it. So I just really
I'm pointing out the nature of them. So again, are we comparing worldviews here? Because you're saying, oh, well, your worldview has starting point, and you can't justify that. Now, is your worldview?
No, I didn't say I didn't. I did not say you couldn't justify it. You said you couldn't justify that. So you're saying your starting point you can't justify.
Well, again, how could you possibly justify a starting point without using them?
Right. So at this point, I guess we would have to move on because at this point, you haven't even built. You basically built your house upon straws instead of stone. And the stone would be.
What would be the stone? Yeah, I'd like to know what would be the stone.
What you would base your knowledge off of. Sure, it would be the Christian God's revelation.
That would be your starting point, right? The stone, right? That's where you're starting from. A foundation.
It would be a justified belief. Yeah, it would be justified starting point. Yes.
A justified starting. Well, in your worldview, do you have any justified starting points? I'd like to hear about them.
Yeah, I already gave you the rock, the stone that you would build your house upon that Jesus talked about. And that stone would be God's revelation. Yeah.
Oh, okay. So can you justify that starting point without using it? Because if you used it, that would be arguing a circle, right? And we don't want to do that. So without arguing a circle, can you justify your starting point?
This is, and I'll answer too, but let me just say this now. This is something that is constantly thrown out and constantly talked about. You're arguing in a circle, and I'm fully aware of that. Now, is all circular reasoning invalid? Is it all fallacious? No. What we're dealing with is a virtuous circle, a circle that actually does work in the Christian worldview. Now,
how exactly does it work?
Now,
I actually heard of virtuously circle.
Sure, but let me just say,
I'm not aware of how that's valid within Aristotelian logic.
Is it not valid? Would you say it's not valid?
Yes, I would say all circular reasoning isn't valid.
So wait, how?
Because
So wait, hold
the
up.
reason why it's invalid is that with it, you could prove anything.
So wait, hold up. No, stop. If it's invalid, hold up. This is if it's invalid, that means there would be a valid option, right? So then now I'm trying to figure out how you're determining, because this would rely upon the laws of logic that we talked about a little earlier. Uh,
Right.
this would depend upon the laws of logic being
you wouldn't use
universal,
circular
right?
reasoning. You wouldn't use circular reasoning to validate it.
Would it be, why not? Would that be a wrong form of argumentation? Because if that's the case, can you explain to me how you know anything to be true? Because in your worldview, I'm curious how you can know anything.
Well,
You know, if it's wrong,
explain
tell
it.
me how we know anything is true.
Yeah, based on my worldview.
No,
Yeah,
no. Tell me how we can know anything is true.
based on my worldview, right?
Tell me how we can know anything is true. Absolutely.
Yeah, by starting with my presuppositions, I can know things to be true. Again, we're assuming my worldview, right? Because you mentioned that you think my worldview is incoherent, and that's why we're having this hangout. So assuming the presuppositions of my worldview, I can know things.
So are you okay? So now, because you were to assume that would mean it would be true. That would be the case now.
Within my worldview, yes.
Oh, okay.
But
So
I don't try to
with the
justify my
but
presuppositions like you try to do.
okay. So this
Because
is
I realize that would be arguing a circle.
which again
So I don't
you
try
keep
to
saying
justify
that
that.
as
That's my
if
starting point.
you're saying that as if that would be wrong. Can you explain to me how that's wrong?
Well, yeah, I explained that circular reasoning is fallacious because if with it you can prove anything, you would be able to prove anything.
So they're fallacious at all times, right?
I don't even see how time or place even matters.
Well, no, well, because what you're saying is you're saying they're
It's not like
fallacious,
it's
and
not
I'm
like the
saying
law. It's not like laws of science, like laws of physics, where
no,
perhaps
it is,
somewhere
because
in a galaxy or somewhere in the universe,
what I'm
gravity doesn't
what
hold
I'm
like
asking
that.
what I'm asking is, um, are they universal? Are these universal laws of logic that would be obligatory and absolute? Are they the case? And I'm not really getting an answer from you if they are the case. So that's why I keep saying, is this invalid? Okay, why is it invalid? Okay, is this an absolute obligatory thing that I am obligated to keep? If not, then that's just your opinion, and there's no reason for me to follow that opinion, because it's just something that you thought up in your mind that really doesn't really mean anything.
Well, within the Aristotelian, the classical logic paradigm, yes, it is universal. It's like saying, is it universal? Is it universal that all stallions are male horses? Is there an instance of a stallion not being a male horse? No. It's always the case that
See, that would be begging the
is,
question, though. See, that would be you assuming that this is already the case, and then you're trying to go ahead and prove it. Now, I'm
well,
going to ask one more time.
it's an analytic truth, right? It's not a synthetic truth. It's analytic, right?
Well, see, okay.
You know the difference between analytic and synthetic.
No, go ahead and explain it to me.
Well, something's analytic. It's true by meaning. So, like for example, I gave example of a stallion being a male horse. Another one would be a triangle is three sides, or a, a bachelor is an unmarried man. Those are analytic statements.
That would really rely upon the laws of logic, though, right? That there could not be two states of affair that could be contrary to one another and be true at the same time.
Well, well, yeah, those things are identities, right? So,
but see, that would be begging the question again, because I'm really asking you how you determine this to be the case, rather than, well, I just assume it, and I have to start off this way because, yeah, I just have to start off.
So you're asking for a logical deduction of the validity of logic? That's what you're asking for? You're asking me to use logic to validate logic? Is that what you're asking me for?
No, I'm asking. Give me a second. I asked how you deter. Like I get what you're saying, but I'm just curious because basically what you're saying is I wouldn't be able to do it. But that question you're saying I wouldn't be able to validate the laws of logic. I just have to assume them. And again, then I would have to go upon the question. Because let me ask you, how do we gain knowledge? How do we gain this information? How do we gain what is our knowledge based off of, according to you?
You're asking what my epistemology is?
Sure. Yeah. How do we gain knowledge?
Oh well, my epistemology is based on an externalistic view of knowledge called reliabilism. So my view is knowledge is reliably produced true belief. Again, I reason.
So that
I reason and gain knowledge from my properly basic beliefs of my worldview.
That was a bunch of, I hate to say gobbledygook, but that literally was nothing, what you just said. Because now,
what are you looking for?
Well, no, because you didn't even tell me how we were to gain knowledge. You just went around it and used. It just doesn't make sense. Can you explain to me how we gain knowledge?
Well, we can gain knowledge through our senses and our reasoning capacities. Those are our tools as human beings.
Okay. Now, because you didn't say that before. Now that I'm a little clear on your worldview and how you view the reality, how we were to gain knowledge, you said through our senses and our reasoning capacity. Now I have another question for you. Wouldn't that assume that our reasoning reliability, that our reasoning was reliable, and that our sense perception was also reliable? And if it does assume that, now I need to know how you determine that to be so.
Well, again, it's based on the presuppositions of my worldview. It seems like you keep on going back. It seems like you keep on going back and asking me to justify the presuppositions of my worldview, and I thought we kind of moved on from that.
So you haven't determined it to be true, right?
Again, how would I do that? How do you validate your starting points without using them?
So you haven't determined.
Is there something prior to that?
So you haven't determined it to be true, right?
It's an assumption. How can you determine again
that you haven't determined to be true, right?
Because I'm not able to justify them now. How could I?
So you have not determined them to be true.
No, how could I?
It's just something you're told to by faith.
Yeah.
Okay. This discussion's over. You don't know anything. You can't prove anything. So where do we go from there? Why would you even?
Well, again, we're talking about worldviews here, and you said my worldview is incoherent. Somehow your worldview is superior. No.
Would you agree that it? No, I didn't say it. Would you agree that it was incoherent, your worldview?
No.
Oh, wow. Can you explain to me how it's coherent?
What's inconsistent? Find a contradiction. Find two contradictory beliefs within my worldview that I have.
No. See, that would be a form. Like, forget the exact term, but that would be a logical fallacy. For when I ask,
it would be a logical contradiction.
No.
Wait,
I asked you.
What coherence means? Coherence means everything fits together, right? That's what to cohere means. All your beliefs fit together. There's no contradiction, right? And that's what I asked you to show. You said my worldview is incoherent. I'm asking you to show any logical contradictions in my belief set. Now, we talked a lot about my worldview. Can we talk about your worldview now? Because you have yet to justify your starting place.
Well, we kind of see, this is the thing.
You went to that your starting point is virtuously circular. And
Wait a second. But you already told me that everything that you reason from is
based on my
unjustified.
starting
It's
point.
not. It's not
That
true. But they're
that
not.
is not true.
Well, right. And I may have misspoke there. You already told me that your worldview.
No, it's what I take for
You
granted.
haven't.
Worldview.
Right. So it's just
Right.
something that you have not determined to be the case, right?
Again, how could I? What method
That's not an answer, by the way.
could you possibly use?
Yeah, that wouldn't be. Yeah, that
Yeah.
wouldn't be an answer. That
Okay.
would be an
Well,
answer.
do you have answers in your worldview? Let's talk about
No,
your
I
worldview.
didn't see.
Oh
Look,
no. Okay.
see,
So
this is the
you want
problem.
to
When I no no, this is the
so you only want to bring up philosophical problems and apply them to
no.
my worldview.
This is the
But
problem. When I'm
let's turn
asking.
these philosophical problems on your worldview and see if you
No,
make
I
it.
would be willing to answer, but the problem is I'm asking you questions and you're just
Well,
trying to
I don't see
throw
how
them
it
on me.
I don't see how my worldview makes a difference when we're talking about your worldview.
No, we were just trying.
Another
See, look,
Christian
you're
could be
still
asking
trying.
you these questions, right?
You're
Another
still trying.
Christian could
No,
simply be you're
you're
a child.
still trying to flip this on me. See, now you're throwing out ad homs. This is we're having.
No. I'm just willing. Do you want to have a fair conversation? We talked about my worldview. I answer a lot of your questions. Are you willing to address your worldview now?
Well, this
Because
is
this is what pre-suppers do all the time. They only want to attack the opponent's worldview, but when you turn the questions onto their worldview, they dive.
hello. I guess Floyd conceded to the notion that his worldview was incoherent.
Circular reasoning as that's somehow a valid form of justification.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
Well, again, I talked about your worldviews doesn't seem any better because you have a starting point, and you said you can't justify them yourself unless you argue in a circle, and you claim them to be virtuously circular. Isn't that correct?
Right, I did say that, and then when I said that, went on and had said, well, would that be wrong, right? And you said yes, and I said, okay, why would it be wrong, Floyd? And you said, well, because of this theory of knowledge, or because the basic how we set up laws of logic, this would be fallacious. And then I said, okay, well, would that mean that these are obligatory laws? I mean, are these laws always held? Do they change ever? Are they conventional? Because if they're man-made, then why am I obligated to keep them? But
Well,
those are just questions.
in your worldview, is circular reasoning fallacious? Are they universal in your worldview? If that's the case, okay, well then you're saying within your worldview, you have a argument, a justification that is circular. So it seems like within your worldview, you have a problem.
Mm-hmm.
And you talked about a incoherent worldview. Well, here in your worldview, you have a belief that you're saying is justified circularly. So isn't that the case within your own worldview that you have a problem? We're doing an internal critique here of your worldview.
No.
Oh, well, can you explain that to me then?
Sure. Well, as I stated before, all forms of circular reasoning are not always fallacious. A form of fallacious circular reasoning, for example, if I were to say, let's see if I can give an example of a form of fallacious circular reasoning. One that would rely upon yourself to prove something. That's the best definition I can give at this point, because I can't think of a good enough example. But when we are looking upward to the Christian God, it is actually virtuous when we have an omnipotent being. Here, let me lay this out.
Oh, so
Christian
special
God is
pleading.
on the. No, that's not what it is. But anyway, so the Christian God would be omnipotent and always truth revealing. Now, if that's the case, and please object to this if I'm wrong, because I would like for you to explain to me how this wouldn't be the case. If the Christian God is the case, and we're talking about the Christian God as he is defined in Scripture, would he be able to reveal to man in a way where he could be 100% certain of this revelation, 100% certain that it came from God, the Christian God, and be able to justify based upon this? For example, I always give this example, and it's a flawed example nonetheless, but it kind of gets the idea across. I make a robot. I want to build a robot, correct? This robot, because this is the reason for this example. Well, I mean, before I get fully into it, a lot of times we hear people say, well, how did you get this revelation? Now, here it is. The robot, build the robot, and I turn the robot on. This robot comes on and says 2 + 2 is 4. I know this. My creator has made me to know this. Now, the reason it is a flawed example is because there would be an ontological distinction between the creature and the creator. I am not the creator. I am not omnipotent. So therefore, I could not reveal to the robot infallibly that 2 + 2 is 4, but the robot would be made having this information already. Now, can you explain to me why this would not be the case if the Christian God exists as he is defined in Scripture?
Well, in your example, the robot has this information that 2 + 2 is 4, but if he can't justify it, how can he justify that if it's just something that was just put into him?
Now,
What's his justification that that is actually the case? Now, he received it from an external source, right? But how can he know how could the creation actually know that the creator actually gave him true information?
See, now this is why I put up this disclaimer kind of when we were giving this example, and I told you there is an ontological distinction between the creature and the creator. And by the creature, I mean myself versus my creator. If I were to build a robot and program him to automatically, when I turn him on, know 2 + 2 is 4, I wouldn't even say no, but be informed or it would be self, it would be already in him. Okay, so the reason I say that is because we have several people who are saying, well, how do you read into the revelation? How do you no, the revelation's in there. It's already in there. And now it's flawed in the sense that, I am not omnipotent. I cannot with all my might, I could not create this being to infallibly know. Now, like I said, Floyd, if the Christian God exists as he's defined in Scripture, omnipotent, always truth revealing, if that is how he is defined, and he is omnipotent, all-knowing, always truth revealing, could he reveal to a fallible being that he exists infallibly?
Well, you're begging the question. That's what you need to justify. The very thing.
Just
You're
answer.
asking me if that's the case. Well, that's the very thing that you need to justify.
No. I'm saying, Floyd, if this is the case, could he do that? I never said it was the case. I said if it was, could he do that? And now you're saying I'm begging, and I never put forth a premise. I never said I never put forth. I never said this was my position or this is. I just said if this was the case, could this be? And you're kind of avoiding that.
Well, another being could give you true information, or it could give you false information.
Okay.
The issue is, how can you, as a fallible human being, know the difference?
That's not the see how you're not answering. You're really not answering. I just
well,
asked,
I did answer. Another being,
no,
whether it be all knowing or not,
I'm gonna go
give you could give you knowledge, could give you
I'm gonna restate
could give you true beliefs. But the question is you as a fallible human being, how could you possibly know whether it's true or not?
Okay, I'm going to ask this question one more time. I'm going to ask one more time. if that is how we are defining him, and I'm not saying I'm holding to this, so you don't need to try to throw anything back on me. If we are defining this God as omnipotent, always truth revealing, if this is how he is defined, could he do this? Now, it could be a very simple answer: yes or no. If not, why can't he? Now, I've talked to some skeptics, like, for example, I saw a name Joe Santi, who will say, well, just because he's clean doesn't mean he poured into a dirty jar, the jar will still be dirty. That is fallacious, and it doesn't make any sense. So can you now explain to me why it could not be the case that if the Christian God is omnipotent, why he could not reveal in a way, and I know it would be in your mind, you could not even understand how, but is it possible, even in your limited finite mind, to be able to say, yeah, it is possible that the omnipotent creator could possibly create something that could infallibly know that he exists?
Infallibly no. So you're saying that the creation,
No, no,
in, ca- in
I'm
case in case you would infallibly know. So you're saying you're infallible,
okay. So
or you were saying you're limited before, or saying that I was limited. Who's limited here? Are we both limited as human beings? I
okay,
would
so
say I
Floyd,
would think we're limited. I would say at least in my worldview, that all humans are limited and fallible.
now
Do
Floyd,
you share
I
that
just want
belief?
you to know, that everyone who's watching currently can see that you're clearly dodging that question.
Uh, Dodging. I mean, you seem to have all these caveats when asking a question. I'm just trying to understand your question.
No, no, I think, look, I put forth, yeah, the way I put forth this, it's very, look, it's a very, uh, look, now I'll restate the question. Okay.
Okay.
If we're defining, and I'm not, well, once again, I did not say I held to this position. I said, if we are defining the Christian God, as omnipotent, always truth revealing, and all knowing,
Hmm.
could he reveal in such a way to his, he's infallible, but he reveals to his fallible creature that he exists, and that would be a piece of knowledge that he would know infallibly? Could he know that?
So you're saying that fallible beings can know things infallibly.
No, I never said. I say, could that be the case? Are you objecting to that? Are you saying it cannot be the
Well,
case?
that's what I'm asking. That's what I'm asking. Is that what you're asking? You're saying that could it be the case that fallible beings have infallible knowledge? That's what you're asking me, right?
Uh, if revealed to by an omnipotent being.
Well, I don't see what difference does it mean if it's revealed. If
That's
if
not
it's
an answer. See, I'm sorry to laugh that abruptly like that. I hate to be
the
rude,
person's
but
still fallible, right? So the question is how can the person have infallible knowledge if he's fallible?
see, now this is, see, look, Floyd, this is. I just want to put this out here again. I'm going to say this again. It is absolutely clear, that you are dodging it being uh, evasive. You're being evasive. That is being, that's evident, because it is a clear look. Here, I'll lay out a few premises. Okay, I'll lay out a few premises. Give me a second.
Oh, can you justify those premises without arguing a circle?
No, 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 no. Look, I'm laying out what I'm getting ready to do is lay
Could
out a few.
you're asking could another being reveal knowledge to another being? Well, sure, it could be the
No,
case.
that's not what I said. See, that would be a straw man already, and you'd be attacking a weaker argument than what I said. Now, I will
Uh,
ask the question again, Floyd. Now,
is your God a being?
look, I'm look. I would like to think when you ask questions, I answer, and I try to give you the best answer I can give. And when I ask you questions, could you please answer my questions respectfully, and honestly? So my question to you would be, if this is the case, that they are omnipotent, always truth revealing. Could they? And I never said I held to this, but I'm just asking if these were, if these were two of my propositions. These are the propositions I'm proposing that it's omnipotent and always truth revealing, and then we have this creature. And by the way, this omnipotent thing is infallible. Could he reveal to a fallible, finite man his existence infallibly?
Well, yeah. So
could he reveal his existence? Now, this should be a yes or no answer. There should not be any more questions, because I think everybody can understand clearly what I'm proposing to you or what I'm asking you.
Yeah. So the question is a fallible being able to receive this infallible knowledge, right? Because receive it, there's two parties involved here, right?
I'll concede.
There's a sender and then there's a receiver, right? So the sender is infallible and omnipotent, all-knowing, always truthful, and then you have the receiver who's fallible, limited, capable of errors, and so forth. So you're asking, can this fallible, limited human being that's capable of being of error know what's being revealed to him with I think you used certainty before, or well,
I said infallibly.
Infallibly.
I said infallibly.
Right. So again, we're back to
infallibly.
So you're back in, can this fallible being who's limited and makes mistakes can know something infallibly?
Sure. Do you have an answer? Sure. Do you have an answer?
Oh, are you there?
Yeah, sure. Do you have an answer?
I got a. Did you get an error too? I got kicked.
I got booted out too. I don't know why he keeps doing that. It's the second time.
Yeah, it said error number 32. I don't know, to be honest with you, because we both established that the receiver is a fallible human being. Theoretically, perhaps it is possible, perhaps, but we saw this fallible human being. So.
Sure. Could you explain to me the problem you're having with conceiving that in?
Well, I say, yeah. I mean, the problem is I don't see how having an all-knowing, infallible being really helps.
No, I didn't just say all-knowing. I said omnipotent. But keep going.
Yeah. Infallible, omnipotent, all-knowing, always telling the truth. I don't see how this can really help the case, because adding an infallible being to a fallible being still leaves you with a fallible being.
Okay, see this. Now this would be
it's saying the truth is out there. Actual knowledge is actually out there, outside of that fallible human being, but it still has to go through this fallible, limited filter.
Right. So, again, you would be man.
So if it was capable, I'm not even sure if it is capable, that is possible.
So can you tell me why you don't think it's why you would have problems with it being possible? What's going on?
Because the fallible human being needs to justify that for it to be knowledge, to be his knowledge to him. That's what I'm in trouble with.
So wait, okay, so now you're saying, Harry Alexander seems to clearly get the question, because he goes, yes, it would be possible. And you are not really giving an answer here. Now, maybe is it because you're not really prepared to answer?
I think I did answer. Perhaps I said perhaps it.
Sure. Now,
perhaps it could be. I don't know.
Okay,
but
now
I still see a problem, because again, how can the fallible being justify that claim?
Justify what claim?
The claim that this being has properly revealed himself to him.
Sure. Well, Let's see. This is kind of, I never even
For
said
it to be
that.
knowledge of that human being, he needs to justify it, right? He needs to have a justification. It doesn't matter if the infallible human being is justified or not. It matters if
And that kind of would get away from the question. So I kind of want to focus more on the question about, could that infallible being reveal to the fallible being in a way we could never? And if no, like I said, if not, what would be the reason for that? You know, and and yeah, he would have a justification. He could say, yeah, my creator has made me do that. My creator has endowed me with this infallible knowledge. Then you would say, well, this is circular. And then, again, we would have to all go back to why that would really be a problem. Because I already explained to you
yeah.
that it's not a problem for me. That would be a problem for you. So basically, now we got to get
So circular reasoning is not a problem for you because what special
not all
pleading?
forms, but you believe that all forms of
Not all
circulation.
forms, and you haven't really explained how some
You
forms are justified and others aren't. You appealed to your God. It sounds like special pleading. Let me read a quote to you. Tell me what you think about this quote. The quote is, "Who wishes to make such a simple blunder in elementary logic as to say that we believe something to be true because it is in the Bible? Our answer to this is briefly that we prefer to reason in a circle to not reasoning at all. We hold it to be true that circular reasoning is the only reasoning that is possible to finite man." What do you think about that quote? Do you know who said that quote?
Go ahead and tell me.
Cornelius Van Til said that. You familiar with him?
I sure am. Go ahead and see now. Do you mind sending me the quote in the side chat?
Yeah, I did. It is inside chat. I did put it there.
Okay. See, I don't. Since like I said in the beginning, I'm on my phone. I'll need you to send it to me in the actual chat, like the outside external chat. Yeah, I do not hear you.
I'm sorry. I was saying because we both got bumped, I no longer have mods, so I can't control this hangout anymore. Nor either of us can invite people. I don't think. So I think we're going to have to.
Wow. Who? How did we? You said we got what?
Well, we both got bumped. You know, we both got
How does
kicked
that?
out.
That just regularly happens.
It Well, yeah, it doesn't happen all the time, but it definitely happened to us this time. So we both rejoined. It looks like, but I no longer have mods. So
So you're gonna make another chat?
yeah, I don't know why. Because I rejoined. And let me hold on. Let me rejoin. Let me see. Let me see if I can get control back. Let me rejoin. I'll be right back.